Good evening. Welcome. I'm Sarah Joseph, and I empower people with tools and information to strengthen relationships through connection. Um, Thank you for joining me tonight. Tonight we're talking about gaining cooperation from our adolescents through connection and contribution. So I thought it would be helpful to start by talking about our need. We all have a need for significance and belonging. So that's a DNA response from everyone, children and adults alike. We are driven to find connection and to feel significance. And significance is really feeling capable, but also feeling like we can do something meaningful, right? That contribution of being part of a community, part of a family, feeling significant in a way that if we weren't there, somebody would miss us. Yeah. So that the goal of our behavior is to meet this need. So basically, if we look at what behavior is happening, we can usually figure out that the need for significance and belonging is driving that behavior. Sometimes we, adults, children, adolescents, develop a mistaken belief about what behavior will help us reach that goal. So, for instance, we can see that, it's often said that children will act out just to get attention, right? And so we can see that sometimes people, children or adults, will act in ways that will get a rise out of somebody. That will make them the center of attention, that will make them feel like they have found significance and belonging. But sometimes the behavior, the goal, like the way that they're getting that, the behavior that they're using to reach that goal is a mistaken belief, right? So they're not actually getting that significance and belonging that they're searching for, but they're trying to reach it in a way that's not appropriate, that's not working for them. They are getting attention, or they're getting, again, they might feel like the center of attention, or like they're getting connection through somebody yelling at them, but it's not the right need is not being met. Does that make sense? So in positive discipline, we talk a lot about mistaken belief, and we talk about how we can recognize what the belief behind the behavior is. Because when we're seeking to change behavior, it's really helpful if we look at what the belief is behind the behavior instead of just trying to stop the behavior. So if we look at this iceberg, in real life, if you were to chop the top of an iceberg off, what would happen is the bottom would push more up to the top of the surface. So you would see more iceberg rise from the bottom. The same is true with behavior. If you have a behavior that you don't like and you try to extinguish that behavior, you're cutting off the top of the iceberg, and then more misbehavior might come out. It would just change, right? So when we're able to look at what the belief is behind that behavior and work with that and change the belief system so that the child is, or the adult is, looking to meet that need of significance and belonging in a more encouraging way, then what happens is behavior changes and we don't find more misbehavior leading to the same results. Hopefully that's clear. So when we're able to deal with the belief behind the behavior, we're able to change the behavior in a more positive way instead of just extinguishing one bad behavior and having more bad behaviors pop up in its place. Okay. So I wanted to start here because I thought it was really important for you to understand this need of significance and belonging that is driving behavior. as we get into talking about how we can gain cooperation from our adolescents. So connection really matters, right? Because that's one of our needs that's driving our behavior. And if we're looking to gain cooperation, we really have to meet the need in order to gain cooperation. Otherwise, we're kind of pushing our children into misbehavior. So adolescents do better when they perceive connection from their home or their school. Now, this longitudinal study that was done on adolescents, over 90,000 teens were surveyed, and students reported that when they were feeling connected to a parent or to the school, they have less emotional distress, fewer suicidal thoughts. They don't use cigarettes or e-cigarettes, vaping as much, alcohol or marijuana. They had less violent behavior and had a later start for sexual activity. Now, I wanted to share that results with you because I thought that was really interesting and really important for us to understand that connection really does change the way our children behave, right? When we find connection at home, we don't have to go looking for it in other places. And when we feel connected to our parents and to our family of origin, then kids don't go looking for that connection through peers they still do, right? I'm not trying to say that they're not going to have friends or look to connect with their friends or even make you feel like their friends are more important than you. But what I'm saying is that they don't go looking for that need to be met in negative or sometimes dangerous ways, right? Where they're trying to fit in, okay? Just to feel like they matter. Okay. So connection is really important. On Monday night, for the elementary school age students, the parents of, we spoke about making family time a priority. And if you have a chance, I really recommend that you hop onto my YouTube channel, which is Connect with Sarah Joseph, and check out that video. It's called Making Family Time a Priority. And in that video, I get into more detail about why connection is so important and how to connect as a family and how to connect individually with each child, and how that can really help in gaining cooperation, but also in just becoming that secure base, that safe haven and a secure base for our kids to know that we're here for them to come back to, but also have that security to go out into the world and take risks and set goals and try for new things, knowing that we're here to catch them if they fall. Contribution really does help build that connection and capability. So the significance and belonging that we're talking about. And contribution is really helping, like chores, right? Helping around the house, being part of what it takes to run a household. Contribution builds connection, and connection encourages contribution. So we have this lovely cycle that when we participate in things, we feel more connected. And when we're feeling more connected, we want to participate more because it feels really good to be with other people and to feel capable. That need of significance and belonging is being met. And adolescents feel that significance and belonging, that connection and capability, when they have opportunities to contribute. So one of the ways that we can help kids contribute is through a jobs list at home, right? Kids can learn life skills, develop social interests. Social interest is a big topic in positive discipline. Positive discipline is based on Alfred Adler's psychology, and one of his theories was the social interest, and he called it Gemeinschaftsgefühl. I don't speak German, so that's as good as I can get that. But basically what that word means is this social interest, which means that I care for others and being part of a community, right? And that community could be your family community, right? It could be the school community or a classroom community, a sports team community, our community here on the Sunshine Coast, or the world, really. And so it's really developing this interest in how are other people doing? How am I contributing to making life better for the people around me? What role am I playing in being part of this larger group? And Alfred Adler said that this was a really good indication of psychological health. So we want to help our children develop this idea of social interest, develop their capability for contributing to the social interest, the good of all. And they can start this by feeling capable at home when they're able to help out. So one of the ways that you can do this is to work together, maybe at a family meeting or just on a Sunday afternoon when you're sitting around talking, brainstorm a list of jobs together. So again, this positive discipline is really about helping our children come in and be part of it, right? It's not about us dictating what's happening. So if we want our children to be cooperating, it's really helpful to get their buy-in. And one of the ways that we get their buy-in is by asking them to participate, by having the conversations with them where we're asking them questions and they're contributing their thoughts and feelings to the conversation. Often what's happened in the past or in other parenting styles is that the parents are seen as the control, and they tell you what to do and when to do it, what needs to be done and who's going to get it done, right? So having this brainstorm with your family of the jobs that need to get done, and then creating a way to rotate jobs. So you could come up with a job wheel or a job chart or a job jar for fishing out chores for the week. And being able to rotate jobs is really helpful because, well, chores can be a little bit monotonous, but also we want kids to be able to learn all the different types of chores that it takes to run a household, right? These are life skills that are needed now more than ever, apparently. I heard last year that colleges were starting to teach these life skill classes because kids were coming to college without knowing how to cook or how to do laundry or some of the basic skills that we need for being able to live on our own. But also, as an adult, I can say that, cleaning the bathrooms is a thankless job. I would really love not to have to do it every week. And so being able to rotate that amongst the whole family, everybody gets to contribute, everybody gets to learn how to clean a bathroom properly, and everybody gets to take a break from cleaning the bathroom, and see how painful it can be to do it all the time. Okay. The last part of this is really to take time for job training. So do the chores with them if it's something new. Show them how to do it, right? Think of this as training somebody on a job. If you had a new employee at work, you're not just going to throw them into the fire. You're going to sit with them, show them the steps first, then, be with them while they go through the steps of doing whatever it is, and then stand back and let them do it. And then fly, right? So those are kind of the same steps that we take for training our kids to do chores. If we have young kids, I say, always do chores with kids for the first 6 years. And by then they usually have a pretty good understanding of what's going on and how to do things. With adolescents, they may have done them sometimes. If you have been using this system for a long time, they're good to go and you don't need to do anything with them to train them. But If it's something new, right? Like maybe cooking a new meal that they haven't done before, or taking on the chore of doing laundry, which might be new for some adolescents. So just take it easy and get them and help them out, right? So cooperation, it really, when I talk about cooperation, I often get parents who think that cooperation means that they're in control. So when we try to gain control over children, it's really disrespectful, and it's really hard. Um, it's really hard to do. It takes a lot of energy in order to be able to police the children all as much as is needed in order to catch them doing good things to reward them and catch them doing bad things to punish them. Um, and so the chances are that if you're trying to gain control over children, you're working your butt off and it doesn't feel very satisfying. Um, it also greatly decreases the chances of winning cooperation. So cooperation is really about kids doing because it feels good to do, right? Helping because it feels good to help. Where when we're trying to gain control, we often use disrespectful methods like shaming, blaming, punishment, threats. And what those methods end up doing is distancing and creating hostility. Kids often rebel, they seek revenge, they turn to sneakiness to avoid getting caught. Where when we're using respectful methods that like connection and inviting cooperation, including kids in those conversations about chores and about problem solving together, right? When we use those types of respectful methods, we invite closeness, we invite trust, and then we invite cooperation. So children often move towards cooperation when they sense that adults care about them and treat them with respect and dignity. Now, I think, I'm not sure if we talked about this before, but if you can see my hands here, when we're talking to adults, we usually come at them from a place of equality, where we treat them with respect and dignity. Because if we came at them from this place of I'm better than you, power over, and spoke down to them, then we would get a lot of pushback, and we probably wouldn't have any friends. And if we had employees, they talk about us behind our back. And probably wouldn't be doing what we asked them to do. Same is true with kids. We often come at them like this, from a place of power over. I'm the boss, you're the child, you listen to me. And what happens is kids need to decide if what you're asking them to do is worth doing and worth giving up their dignity, their self-dignity and respect. When we come at them from this place, we're coming at them from a place of equality, saying, I respect you and I treat you with dignity because you are equal and worthy of that. And now when I say equal, please don't misconstrue this. I'm not saying that kids are equal to us as adults in the sense of adults have more experience and we do have more power, right? So we do step into this power place when we need to make sure that everybody stays safe, right? When we're using our knowledge, we can do it from a place of equality with dignity and respect. And when we're using our power, we can do the same thing, right? When we move into the power over place, it's because we're usually, from a parent standpoint, it's usually out of fear, right? We move into this place because we were parented in this way, which most of us were, if we were being honest. We were parented this way. And this power over, I'm the boss, you do what I say, don't talk back to me, right? kind of way. So it's what we know, and it's often our autopilot. But when we parent from this place now, knowing better, it's often because we fear losing control. And when we're able to come to our kids from this place of equality of, I can treat you with respect and dignity, keep your dignity intact, and speak to you like kindly and respectfully. And when I say, again, when I say respectfully, what I'm talking about is being respectful to ourselves, to the child, and to the situation at hand. Okay? So it's not just, I'm not speaking of just being kind. I'm talking of being kind and firm, right? So that we're being respectful to all situations and all people involved. So when we're coming from this place, then children move towards cooperation because they can sense that we care about them and we want to treat them with dignity and respect. When we come from this power over place, children have, adolescents, people in general have this pushback, this reflex of resistance, because they're trying to keep their own dignity intact, right? So there's the necessity, and it's, again, it's ingrained in us. It's part of our brain chemistry to resist being talked down to, being made to feel less than. Now, sometimes sometimes what happens is because we knew this way and we grew up this way and maybe we have been parenting this way, sometimes when we come to our children from this place of I'm treating you with dignity and respect, they don't trust it up first, right? At first they give us some pushback. At first they wonder, is this a trick? What are we doing? What is she asking for? Right? Because it feels like a trick if we've always worked from this power over place. So again, this gaining of cooperation, it really needs to come, we really need to come from a place of that I'm going to keep your dignity intact and I'm going to be respectful to you. And sometimes that takes a little bit of effort to get to that place if we have eroded it in the past. Think of it as, respect isn't given, it's earned. And if we have been disrespectful to our kids in the past, then we may have broken that respect and we may have to earn it back. And the way that we earn it back is by being respectful and showing them that this is going to be a consistent trend, right? It's really never too late to change the way that our relationships are set up. And when we change, often what happens is the other people in our life try to get us to act the way that we had been acting in the past because it feels like a trap, or it feels like it can't be true that you're acting the way that you're acting now. So I'm going to push and push and push you to see if I can get you to act the way that you used to act, right? And when we're able to be consistent in our new way of responding to triggers, or using new tools, or just our new way of being, then the people around us learn that no matter what you push, I'm not going back there. I'm not going to do that anymore. So because in a family system, we are all linked, when one person changes the way that they behave, it affects everybody else. And it often has a beautiful ripple effect of how people behave in the family. Now, the opposite is true as well. When one person is acting out or is ill or is, having mental health issues, it trickles through, right? And it affects everybody. So you can see both sides of that coin. So here are 4 steps for winning cooperation. And again, it starts by building trust with kids, right? So expressing an understanding for their feelings, and making sure that you're checking in to see if you're right with them. Now, again, in week 1 of this series, we talked about how to empathize and speak to a child who might be upset. So that would be a really good video to go back and watch to understand how you can empathize and how you can get into understanding a child's feelings. And I shared some good phrasing for expressing understanding of feelings. So the second step is showing empathy without condoning. So empathy is really, you can show empathy without agreeing with somebody, right? It's really just validating what the other person is feeling in that moment. So you don't have to condone and you don't have to agree. And the best way to do that is to just repeat what or state the feeling that you're talking about. So you're looking at the feeling behind the experience instead of talking about the experience itself, right? Does that make sense? So if we're talking about a child who's really disappointed that they can't go to grad, then you might talk about the disappointment behind the experience, and then share your understanding of how that experience would be disappointing. You can share your understanding of how the experience of not being able to go to grad would be disappointing for them. And so you may not understand it or agree with it, but you could still express that understanding. And a nice touch is to share a time when you felt or behaved similarly. So again, this is getting in touch with a time that you were disappointed by something that you felt was a major thing that didn't happen, right? All right, so then you can share your feelings and perceptions about this event for them. And if the first two steps have been done in a sincere, respectful manner, then your child will probably be ready to listen to how you're feeling and what your perceptions of the situation are. Then you can invite your teen to focus on a solution. And so ask if they have any ideas. And so again, so a lot of the time as parents, we think it's our job to solve problems for our kids. But the truth is, we are here to be a sounding board. We're here to lead them and guide them. And when we fix problems for our kids, really what we're doing is taking away that opportunity for them to learn how to problem solve, and to see how capable they are of doing that. So when we're able to focus on solutions together, and have them work through it with us, then we're able to show them how capable they are and meet that need again, right, of significance and belonging, because now they're feeling connected to us because we care, we've listened, we've shown an interest in helping them solve a problem. Again, because as parents, we often take this role. And I've seen lots of teachers do this too, because it saves time, right? So when we're able to, when we have problems come up as parents and teachers, we often just step into let's solve it mode. We take control. We tell our kids how to solve their problem, and we give them the solution. And when we do this, it can save us time. But often what happens, because it's happened so much to kids, is that they think that they don't have any good solutions. And so when we first start asking them, what do they think? How do they think they could solve this problem? They go, I don't know. And they got nothing. So if that happens, then we could offer some suggestions, but it's really helpful if we try to pull some suggestions out of them before we give ours. Or give one and then see if that sparks anything, right? But then it's best to get their agreement before they move forward, because it's their problem, right, to solve. So I'm just going to go back here. So we can go through these steps, right? We can go through the jobs list, we can go through the winning cooperation, we can have good connection, we can help them feel capable, and still teens might not do their chores. they might not want to contribute, right? And that's simply part of being an adolescent. Adolescents don't, their top priority will not be contributing, will not be chores. And that's just reality, right? So sometimes we're going to face situations where we're going to need to follow through with what we had spoken about, to get our teens on board, for doing chores, right? And so when we're looking at follow through, again, it's about having a friendly discussion about where everyone can voice their feelings and thoughts. And so this is what we would do if, say, the jobs list was done and, you know, the teen had chosen a job to do for that week and they had agreed to do it, and then it didn't get done, right? So now we're going to have to go to them and have a conversation about why the bathroom didn't get cleaned this week when it was supposed to be done. So we can have a discussion about, hey, what, you know, I'm feeling really upset because it was your week to clean the bathroom and it's been the whole week and it's still dirty. And then, you know, have them share, allow them to share why it didn't get done, what was going on for them, any thoughts, right? And then brainstorm for a possible solution so that you can choose something that's mutually agreeable. And then agree to a specific time or deadline to the minute. So by 3 p.m. today, the bathroom will be cleaned. But understand well enough that the deadline probably won't be met, and simply follow through with your part of the agreement by holding the child accountable. So, you know, sometimes this looks like it's my turn to do laundry, but I'm only going to, this is about me choosing what I will do instead of what I can make the child do, right? So I am going to choose to do laundry, but only do laundry that's in a laundry basket ready for me to take to the laundry room, or only the laundry has been taken to the laundry room for me. That's the laundry that I will complete, I will get done today. When is my day to do laundry? Now, if if that was the agreement in advance and we had a specific deadline for me to have the laundry ready, I'm doing laundry at 5 p.m. and any laundry that's not in the laundry room by then won't be getting it done. And that's the decision that I've made. So this is how I'm going to hold my child accountable, is that I'm not doing the laundry, right? Now, when it's an activity that they're supposed to do, and it's also about how I'm going to hold them accountable, right? What happens when they don't do a chore that they agreed to do? And so again, this is something that needs to be spoken about before it happens. What is the follow through? What happens when you don't do the chores that you're supposed to do? It affects the whole family. So then what is the consequence? Or how are you held accountable, right? I don't like the word consequences, because to me, consequences has that negative connotation that means punishment. And really, I don't think that is. A consequence to me is an outcome. There is an outcome to all of our behavior. Sometimes the outcome is positive and sometimes it is negative. And when we don't follow through with the agreements that we've made, it often has a negative outcome for not just us, but for the people around us or the people who share our household. And so when we can help our kids see that their actions impact other people, and have negative impacts on other people, they often feel bad about it, right? And they want to fix it. And so it sometimes takes some time in order for that realization to happen. Sometimes adolescents can be quite selfish, for lack of a better word, right? They are the center of the universe, kind of like toddlers, can't see how they're impacting other people. And so sometimes it's necessary to have a family meeting where everybody in the family gets to voice their feelings and thoughts around people not pulling their weight. Okay, so when we're doing effective follow through, there's a few traps that parents often fall into. One of them is that we want our kids to have the same priority as we do. As I said earlier, they just don't, right? Their priority is going to be connecting with their friends, entertaining themselves, playing video games, all the really important stuff. Getting into judgments and criticism instead of sticking to the issue can really turn the conversation off track quickly and lose all of the momentum that you've gained in trying to build that connection, trying to build the winning the cooperation. When we get into judging or criticizing, it feels a lot like shaming and blaming, and it shuts down connection in a second. Shaming is the number one way to break a sense of connection. And John Gottman's research shows that criticism is one of the number one ways. There's 4 ways that you can basically destroy a relationship, and criticism is up in the top 4. So try to stay away from criticism and shame when you're trying to build connection in any relationship. Okay, so not getting agreements in advance, which should include specific timeline deadlines, is definitely a trap we fall into. And again, not talking about what happens when agreements aren't met is another trap that we fall into, because it's kind of like setting kids up to fail, or like playing a game without giving them the rules, right? We need to lay it all out so that they understand what the expectation is and what the consequences, outcomes are if the expectations are not met. And the last trap is not maintaining dignity and respect for the child or for yourself. Again, that takes us way off track, right? When we go down that road of shaming, blaming, we really get into a place where we're disrespectful, and it just drives a wedge through that connection. So here are a few hints for effective follow through. So we want to make sure that we're keeping our comments simple and concise. I notice you didn't mow the lawn. Would you please mow it now? In response to objections, ask, what was our agreement? Right? So we're trying to avoid the lectures and the pampering or the rescuing. We're just trying to be like, hey, I noticed this happened. Are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? What was our agreement? Right? In response to further objections, just shut your mouth and use nonverbal communication. So just like the parent smile, not knowingly, like give the look. You have the look, right? We all have one. Just point at your watch. Yeah. And then the last one is, when your child concedes, to keep the agreement, sometimes with seeming annoyance, say thank you for keeping our agreement. Now, this is that I think that's also a tough lesson for us parents to learn, that just because adolescents moan and complain doesn't mean they're not going to do the job, right? It's just one of the ways that they are expressing their feelings. And so allow them to express their feelings and while they're doing the job, right? As long as they're getting the job done, that's the most important thing. And we as parents can take a step back and comfort ourselves when we feel triggered by how their annoyance and their whining and complaining while getting the job done is what that's creating inside of us, right? That emotional annoyance that it creates inside of us. So, and then we can just say thank you to them for getting the job done when they get it done. I have to say that's one of the hardest steps. Okay, let's see. So I think that's all I wanted to talk about tonight in terms of what, connection and how we can help kids, how we can gain cooperation from kids through that connection and contributions. I hope you found this helpful. Coming up next Wednesday, we're going to talk about problem solving together and making those agreements. So don't miss out on that, because I feel like it's a really important step, those making agreements together. And if you've missed anything, please do check out my YouTube channel at Connect with Sarah Joseph for the previous weeks of this series.